So welcome to episode 18 of Dusty. Now in this episode, we're going to get some colour on this body. Not on the outside, just on the firewall and interior. But before that, we have to sand back the firewall and interior. I've got a seam seal all around here, put some stone guard up in the wings and underneath the firewall, so it protects some stone chips. Then we should have some colour on it. I've got some new body mounts, and hopefully by the end of this episode it'll be painted and on the chassis. So I've got this 3M sanding pad that I'm going to use to sand back the interior and firewall. It's a bit flexible so it'll mould over everything, but I'm just going to lightly go over everything, scuff it up a bit, get rid of sort of the shininess on it all. Interior is the same, there's just a bit more to do. So I've got a few different types of paint on here just because I stuffed a few bits up, but do the same thing in here. Just go over it all. You can feel it's nice and smooth, but some of those bits are a bit rough, so I'm just going to go over it all. There's a few bare metal bits. I'll just put a little bit of etch primer back over that. So what I've done is strip back the transmission tunnel plates and like the fuel sender plates, the covers, and all the gear stick covers and stuff. And I'm going to hit those with a bit of etch primer so they're ready to paint the same colour as well. I've got some subframe black. It's just like an acrylic enamel paint. So like most episodes, this one's all over the place, but what I'm going to do now is I've got some spray putty, and that's going to go over the dashboard there, because that's pretty much the only interior part you're going to see, and the transmission tunnels. So there's another change of plan for this episode now. Instead of just doing the inside and firewall, we will probably do the outside as well. But doing the outside means all this needs to get sanded back. There needs to be seam sealer through there. So we need to do a fair bit on this outside now, but got a few weeks, so I'm going to get into it. So I've already started on this, but how I'm going to do it is with a sand block, wet rag. I'm just going to put a bit of water on it. In all those little bits here where you can't get a block in, I've just got a bit of sandpaper. You can just do it by your fingers. So I've spent some time on this now. It's all nice and smooth, all sanded back, but now it needs a bit more spray putty on it because there's a few bits in here that you can feel there are a few indents there. It's not quite perfect. There are a few low spots that need to be filled. So I'm going to put a few more coats of spray putty on this and then sand that back and then go from there. So what I'm going to do now is I've got some stone guard here, and that's going to go under the firewall, up the wings, protect it from rock chips and stuff. So I've sanded that back already. I'm just going to mask everything off so it doesn't get any overspray, and then we'll put some on. So this is all masked up now. I've got a big masking sheet that's way too big for this, but it's got the sticky tape on the bottom so it's easy to put on. All the vents are masked up so it doesn't go out there onto the paint on the outside. All these are masked up enough. Just go into that line under there. Same on this side, so I'm just going to double check everything and then put some stone guard on. So that's it all dry and finished. It turned out pretty well. It cut off at the line quite nicely. That's going to have all colour on it as well, so the whole engine bay is going to have colour, but that's just going to be protection down the bottom. So here's the rest of the parts that I need to do up. Those kick vents, they'll be easy. They just need a bit of a sand. Fuel filler neck, that's alright. I'm just going to pull that off and give it a paint. I'll just clean this up, clean the breathers up. I've got to strip back the booster and strip back the clutch master, give those a clean up and paint them. And our steering wheel and shaft, I've got to pull all this apart, clean it up and paint it because it's It's not the best looking in there. So now that I've got the brake booster apart, I want to pull apart this reservoir. So I've got a pair of C-clip pliers. Just going to put them in there. Try not to lose that. And then I'll pull out the piston, pull out the spring in there. Get rid of this O-ring on the back so we can give it a clean. So it's now all pulled down. I couldn't get that plastic bit out, I didn't want to break it, but everything's pulled down. I've got all the pistons out, all the bolts, all the washers, everything's out of it. So now I'm going to give this a clean up, spray some air through it, get rid of anything that was inside, give it a wire brush, clean the outside up, and then I'm going to put some paint on it. So my paint is now dry on the master reservoir. Looks alright now in black. So I'm going to pull out all the parts that came from the inside and stick it all back together. So just in case, I'm going to blow a bit of air through it. So I'm going to give it a spray of high pressure lube. Put the big spring on and just push that in. So I've annealed these two little copper washers and they sit down in there. Then you put these plugs in. Now to put the actual reservoir on, I've got this big hollow bolt that falls through there, and then you just sit this on there, and that's all on. Now this little hose goes between there and there, but it's perished and I don't think it's going to hold fluid for much longer, so I'm going to get a new one of those, but we'll just leave it like this for now. So now I've found some more things that need to be cleaned up and painted before the car goes back together. And that box in there has all the bolts that I need to put the car back together. So I'm going to start sorting through that and do all this off camera. So all the parts I needed painted are now painted. They're enamel, so they're going to take a while to dry, but it'll be tough once they're done. But now I have to clean the shed up because this is going to get undercoated tomorrow. So the whole shed needs to be cleaned down, everything put back where it's meant to be. Floor cleaned up, a few drop sheets put down, so this is in a clean environment to be sprayed. So the shed's all nice and clean now, but what I've got to do now before we spray is just give the inside a wipe down with a bit of a damp rag, clean it out a bit, get rid of some of the dust, and then we can get to spraying. So that's the first coat on. Now that's looking pretty smick. There's no real imperfections in it. There's one little chip in the back, but the rest of it's pretty perfect. So I'm going to put a second coat on now, and then that will be ready for colour in the next few days. So now I've got to fill all the body gaps with some Sikaflex, make sure no water gets in, and rust stuff out again. So all little bits like there, that's already got some in it, but all those bits in there. So I'm going to go around with this and fill all those up. So it's been a scrappy few days and we haven't been able to get colour on it yet. It's all sanded back, it's ready, but today it's sunny. It was raining this morning, but it's sunny now and the body is warm enough to put some paint on, so hopefully we're going to get some paint on it at Savo. So what I'm going to do now is just got a bit of wax and grease remover. I'm just going to go over it just lightly. It's not going to take the paint off, we'll just clean any dust up off it and just clean it up a little bit more. So the colour is a 2-to-1 mix. Hardener there, the colour. I'm going to fill it up to the highest one because it's going to take a fair bit, this body. So fill up to the 5 and the 5 and the 2-to-1 area. So that's the final coat on. I put a few coats on it. It's very nice. I've got one little tiny run just there. You can barely see, but that's the only run on the whole thing. A few little bits of dust on the interior, but otherwise I'm really happy with this. So I'm super happy how Dusty's turned out. All the colours on, just the tub for the moment. All the rest of the body panels will be in a few months' time, but for a shed job this is really good. There's only a little bit of dust landed up top there, a bit on the interior, but on the bits that you see the most there's no dust, so I'm super happy with this. So in the next episode that I'm actually filming today, this is going to get put on the chassis and I'll hopefully have it driving pretty soon. It's going to be pretty basic, just going to have a seat and steering wheel and the clutch. That's pretty much it, or whatever else I can get in, but I just want to get this, being able to move the car around.